Hey guys, it's Greg Jones for Engine Builder, and we are here at SICK Week. It is day 3, and we're in Gainesville. Today I'm joined by Richard Guido, and between us here is his Pontiac GTO with a turbocharged 521 cubic inch Pontiac engine, and it's our engine of the week.
Engine Builder's Engine of the Week is sponsored by Pen Grade 1, L-Ring DOS Original, and NPW.
Richard, thanks so much for giving us some time here. I've been meaning to do this interview with you for a number of years now, actually, because you've been doing this for a long time, and you do it a little bit different than a lot of other competitors might. Where this thing literally drives everywhere; it doesn't get trailered at all.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've been doing drag and drive events since 2013, and I've always driven to them and driven home. This is the craziest for sure. It's 3,000 miles to get to the start of the race, then the race, and then 3,000 miles to get home. So it's got mud flaps on it and snow tires for the road. But yeah, so it sees a lot of miles, and it runs pretty quick too. So. And
how long is that trip? Down and back. Do you break it up over a few days?
Usually on the way down, because of drag and drive events, I know a bunch of people, so I'll stop and do some visiting, but on the way home, it's usually time to get back to work. So 3 days, 1,000 miles a day, and yeah, buzzing right along, yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Richard, tell us a little bit about the GTO. How long have you had it, and then we'll get into some of the engine specifics.
Yeah, so I bought it in BC. It was out of a junkyard 20 years ago. And it had the door kicked in and the quarter panel kicked in, and so I put it in my garage in October, and I was driving it in October of the following year. So it beat the shit out of me for not like half a year, and so I've been beating the shit out of it ever since. So it's an original black GTO with a red interior. It was a 4-speed car, which is what I was looking for. It wasn't a tri-power, but when I originally restarted, it had a tri-power 498 motor in it, which was a 4.5-inch stroke 90 over 400 with a tri-power on it, and it was running in the 11s with a 5-speed TKO at that time.
Yeah, very cool. And so now you got a 521 cubic inch Pontiac in it with a pretty good turbocharger up front. So tell us some specifics about what you got in there now.
Yeah, so it's an aftermarket Pontiac block from Indian Adventures. The heads are Edelbrock wide port heads. They flow about 360 CFM. It's got a Crower billet crank in it, Crower steel I-beam rods, CP pistons, and then it's got an Edelbrock fuel-injected Victor, I think it's Super Victor EFI is the intake manifold. And one recent change that I just did is I dry decked the block. So it's still got water, flows from the mechanical water pump through the block, out the back of the block, and through the heads. And so I was a little worried because I hadn't driven it on the street since I did that, but I hopped in the car, drove it 3,000, and it seems to be working good. So I can add a little bit more boost now because it's got O-rings. The fuel injection, the ECU is a Mega Squirt MS3 Pro Evo, and it does everything. It does my boost, traction control. I've been really happy with it. Actually, it's been working great. So the heads are Edelbrock. The valve train's all Crower, shaft rockers, and they've been fantastic as well. So. And then it's got Manton push rods, 7/16 on the exhaust and 3/8 on the intakes. I think and then it's got a Crower cam in it, and it's got Crower solid roller lifters, 904 lifters. So they're the bigger ones, and they seem to be a game changer too. When I had 842s in some of my other ones, I struggled a bit with lifters, but man, these things been bulletproof. So.
Oh, that's great. You mentioned the Crower cam. Do you know some of your cam specs?
Yeah, the cam is 264, 268 at 50 thou duration. and it's got about 716 lift, and it's a solid roller cam. And so I drive it a long ways. I do lash it tighter than the specs, like 5 to 8 thou, just to make sure that it doesn't beat up the valve train on the really long drive. So
right, very good. Now we don't want to ignore the turbo, because you said that this is actually a newer turbo setup, right?
Yeah, well, I've been through a few iterations of it, but when I wanted to put a turbo on, I called up Works Turbochargers, and I told him, I'm like, I drive this thing everywhere, and he spec'd out this 94 120 Borg Warner, and I tell you what, it's been flawless too. Reed Partridge is the guy's name, and he did exactly what it does everything I want it to. In fact, I've still got lots of room. If I want to add more boost, I'm nowhere near the capacity of it yet, but I only run like 17 pounds of boost.
Okay, out on the track?
Yeah. And so the motor, naturally aspirated, made 716 horsepower, and then this thing doubles it really quick. At 17 pounds on the chassis dyno, it made 1,485 horsepower to the tire.
Very nice, very nice. So Richard, talk a little bit about the class that you're running in this week, and a little bit of your expectations, for Sick Week this week.
Yeah, so it's a stick car, so it's got a G-Force T56 Magnum in it, which it's got 2 overdrives, which that's what really allows me to drive it so far. And so I'm in stick shift class. So in the first year I won stick. The second year I won stick, so I got 2 orange helmets. I think they're the only 2 in Canada. And then this year, unless Chad Figley breaks, I'll probably end up in second place if everything keeps going well for me. So I got a new personal best on day 1. It went 861 at 161. Yesterday it went 885. I'm hoping it'll be back in the 8.6s, 8.5s today, but I'm restricted by my cage and my certification. I can only go 850s. So
okay,
yeah,
very good, very good. Awesome. Richard, anything else about the GTO or about the Pontiac engine that we might have missed?
I don't think so. No, I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, my engine builder is Muscle Motors in Strathmore, Alberta, and we freshened it up when we dry decked it before, and man, I was pretty happy. It drove 3,000 miles. First day, it goes out and runs a new personal best.
That's a pretty good test, right?
That's a pretty good test. It makes me nervous, after 3,000 miles, stuff falls off on the way down. Actually, I had one incident where it started making noise while I'm driving, and it would go away. Every time you'd hit a bump, the lights would flicker, and the lights would flicker and the stereo would. And I'm like, how are the lights in the stereo? But the car wouldn't shut off. Ended up being a loose starter wire that was touching the starter solenoid. So it was trying to start while I was driving down the road. But other than that, tightened the bolt and just kept right on going. So yeah.
Very good. Well, Richard, really appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Pleasure getting to talk to you a little bit about the GTO and about your Sick Week experience. So really appreciate it. And guys, that's been this episode of Engine of the Week. Make sure you're checking out Richard Guido and everything that he's got going on with his GTO. He really does some really cool stuff with drag and drive. And as always, make sure you're checking out enginebuildermag.com for more great engine content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.